Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our second of our summer parent series. We're really excited that you could join us today as we talk about academic support with some of our Trinity colleagues. We're really excited for this evening. So we're going to go through our own introductions, some dates that we want to remind you of, some Zoom etiquette, and then hand it over to our panelists this evening.
Hello, everyone. I'm Alisa Holtzman-Cantu. I'm a proud Trinity Tiger graduate of 92 and a master's in 94. And I'm Director of Parent Giving and Engagement. You have received several emails from me already. It's my pleasure to get to welcome families onto campus and help with a great team of people, including Nicole and Esther, and actually a great big team of people to create parent programming, and thankful for our colleagues here, Betty and Becca and Spencer, who are able to join us here tonight to help create the community of parents and keep you informed. I also run the Parent Council. It's a volunteer organization that I hope you will all take a look at, and we'll visit that later. And I hope you will join us. Y les quería dar una buena bienvenida a nuestros padres y familias que hablan español. Por cualquier cosa, estoy aquí para ayudarles, and that goes for everyone. I am here to help you and answer any questions that you might have.
Wonderful. And good evening. My name is Nicole Fredo Garcia, also a proud Trinity alum, class of 2013, and I serve as the Senior Assistant Director of Admissions and also the Coordinator of Alumni and Parent Recruitment. So with Alisa and other campus partners, serve on our Parent Engagement Committee here at the university, and I work with our Parent Ambassadors, which is another volunteer opportunity on our campus to specifically help and serve the Office of Admissions in our recruitment efforts. And Esther Esparza also serves on our committee. She's not able to join us this evening, but you will hear from her numerous occasions throughout the summer, as well as orientation, since she oversees all of our orientation programs, both for your students and for you as parents and families. So we wanted to remind you, just as we did last week, about a few upcoming dates that your students are aware of or have been emailed about, and that we would really appreciate your support in encouraging them to complete some of these items or look into their emails to check out some of these items. So the housing form, which includes the meal plan selection, is past due already, but there are a few students who do need to complete that. There is also a more recent form that's a roommate COVID-19 vaccine status preference form, where a student will indicate if they would prefer to live with somebody who is vaccinated. That form is also available in their portal, and that they've been emailed about. July 1st is also a big day in terms of things that are due. So the COVID vaccination questionnaire, health records form, final high school transcripts are all due. And by that date, housing assignments will be distributed, which is usually very exciting. July 9th, there have been instructions sent out for how your student can upload their photo for their Tiger card. And then July 19th is when fall semester statements become available, and you can find those payonline.trinity.edu. Additionally, a reminder to save the date for orientation and move-in. So August 20th will be our new student move-in day. We do want to draw your attention to those who are participating in our summer bridge programs, though, to reference your schedules and materials for that, as you'll have earlier dates that have been indicated in your schedule. August 21st will be an all-encompassing day for you as parents and families to participate in orientation. Those programs and schedules aren't out yet, but the day will go until about 10 p.m. So just keep that in mind for your scheduling or flights. And then a save the date for Fall Family Weekend, which is October 8th through 10th. So as you have probably figured out, we are in a Zoom webinar, which means that we cannot see or hear you. And so we encourage you to engage with us through the Q&A feature. You will be able to check anonymous if you would like to ask your question anonymously. Otherwise, we will be able to see your name as it currently appears on your Zoom screen. And then we will provide links or things that we think is appropriate to share with the whole group through the chat feature. You just won't be able to chat with us back. But we do encourage you to really pay close attention. Oftentimes your questions are being answered as you're chatting in the Q&A. So if you're able to save your questions until the end, that could be really helpful in making sure you're capturing the information that is presented to you. So we are going to turn it over to our panelists today. We're really lucky to be joined by our colleagues. Betty Curry is the Director for Academic Support in the Tiger Learning Commons, which these three colleagues are housed in the library. Spencer Scruggs, who's our Director for Student Accessibility Services, and Becca, who is an academic coach serving in the Tiger Learning Commons as well. So we will turn it over to you all.
Awesome. We are so happy to be here with y'all this evening. And I know with Betty and Becca, we get flipped back and forth all the time. So it happens constantly. So I will go ahead and start us off here. Again, we had that lovely introduction from Nicole. My name is Becca Burt-Steinbach, and I'm an academic coach. So I'm starting my 4th year in this role, also a proud Trinity alum. So it's been a lot of fun being back here and kind of serving students from the other side. So I will let Betty and Spencer introduce themselves, and then we'll dive into some of our content.
Great. Hi, everybody. I am Betty Curry, and my title is Director for Academic Support, which includes a number of fantastic things, including getting to supervise the umbrella of services that you're going to hear about tonight. We love working with your students. We love so many things about them, their quirkiness, their curiosity, and their development cycle that we're getting to be a part of. We like to see them developing their superpowers. It's a very fun process to walk down the road with. So we'll be telling you more about the services in our area. Each of us will have introduced ourselves, then we'll go over some tips for academic success. And then Spencer will share the top 6 things to know for students with disabilities. And then we'll have plenty of time at the end for questions and answers. It's highly possible that questions that come up along the way will be addressed, but if not, we'll be happy to address those when we get to the end.
Hi, everyone. My name is Spencer Scruggs. You use he, him, his pronouns, and I am the current director for Student Accessibility Services. So excited to be spending some time with you all this evening. I am rounding out my first year here at Trinity, and I have fell in love with this community, and I am so excited that your students have specifically chosen to be a part of this community. I have been working with students with disabilities for almost 7 years now, and majority of my work has been in this realm of working with students with disabilities at the college level. So I'm really excited to share a little bit of that knowledge with you all, and also share a little bit about why I truly believe, even though it may be a little biased, why I believe Trinity is really one of the best places for students with all different needs, learning needs, and disability related needs. So.
Awesome. So just to give y'all a quick overview of what we're doing today, as you can see here, we're going to talk through our staff in the Tiger Learning Commons. So when we're all back on campus, we will be in the same physical area together. So it's a great kind of cohesive space to be in. So Spencer's going to tell us a little bit about student accessibility services and their staff. Betty will lead us through the Writing Center and the Quantitative Reasoning and Skills Center. And I'll talk a little bit about academic coaching. Then we'll be diving into kind of part 2, tips for academic success, more to know about coaching. And then Spencer will wrap us up with things to know for students with disabilities. So again, we know questions will be coming in throughout, and hopefully we address most of them throughout the presentation, but we will have time at the end for Q&A. So we'll be monitoring those as well.
Wonderful. So I am super excited to share a little bit about quickly share a little bit about our staff. So I'm really excited because our staff has grown significantly, and I think that has really indicated a commitment on behalf of the university to supporting students with disabilities and with a variety of different learning needs. So I already introduced myself, but we have our wonderful accessibility specialist, Jessica Reyes, who does a variety of different things, including working with a variety of campus partners on campus, on partnered initiatives. Jessica also handles a lot of our what we consider auxiliary services, so note-taking. She oversees our testing services. She handles a variety of those different accommodation-related needs. We have Amanda Carr, who's our ATC clerk, and she is specifically over testing for students. So students with testing accommodations, as you'll see in a bit, can use our accommodated testing center, and she handles that. We also have our amazing learning specialist, Myron Hodge. And Myron is specifically at Trinity to work one-on-one with students in those significant cases where the student really needs that type of support. We recognize that students get a lot of that, or may get a lot of that in high school, and that sometimes that does not, that opportunity does not present itself in the college setting. And so Myron is specifically there to make sure that is happening here at Trinity. And so excited to share a little bit more about what he does in just a bit. And then we have our wonderful and amazing office manager, Judy Norris, who does so much for us and keeps our gears going. So.
Okay, so I'm going to introduce you to two of our colleagues who do amazing work. Professor Jenny Rowe is the director for tutoring programs. The biggest part of her job, or a big part, is the coordination of the writing center. So that means that she trains and coordinates the work of a fantastic team of students to support students with writing at any stage of the process, whether they're at the brainstorming stage or at the end trying to edit it down, proofread, that sort of thing. So it is a fantastic service, and she coordinates that. She also trains the peer tutors all over campus. So almost every first year class will have an embedded tutor, peer tutor, especially in the STEM courses and in the first year experience class. And so all of them have had fantastic training, which leads to a tutor certification, thanks to the expertise of Jenny Rowe. Next, we have the Quantitative Reasoning and Skills Center. It's kind of like the sibling to the Writing Center, and that this is support from peers for math-related things. And so they have a great schedule for drop-in peer tutoring. Students can find out when are the hours. They can find out, for my particular class, is there a subject matter expert in? There's also many generalists who can help with especially the intro courses. So this is a great new addition. I think this is our third year of the QRS, and it has made a very big difference in students making the transition to college level math.
And that brings it right back around to myself and Betty. So Betty and I are both available to see students for individual academic coaching, and academic coaching may be a new term for many of y'all. So I'll go into a little bit more about what that means. Students may also see us in the classroom, especially during some of those bigger intro classes, some of those intro to chemistry, principles of psychology, potentially their first year experience. So they may see us in their classrooms as well with targeted and tailored content, There's a series of workshops. We'll be talking about some of our jumpstart workshops as we get closer to the end of our time today, and lots more. So I'll tell you about more of what we do, but all of this is evidence-based. So we like to stay up to date on current literature and the science of learning. So that is all where we find our foundation here in academic support. So again, coaching may be a new term for many of y'all. So academic coaching can cover a variety of needs. Betty and I always say that no two meetings look the same, and the way that we support students doesn't always look the same. So some of the things that we see most often is time management help, learning skills, study strategies, accountability has been a big piece of this past year especially, motivation and procrastination, testing anxiety, note-taking, and more. So something that we know and see all the time is that, it'd be very nice if students, could just compartmentalize all different segments of their lives, but we know that that's not how it works, and that they are students and have whole and full lives. And so we like to talk about how all of those different things intersect. Their job responsibilities, their classroom responsibilities, things going on outside of the classroom, and how we can find balance among all of those things. So students can come see us as frequently as they like. We have some students who see us at a scheduled time once a week, every week. And some only come once or twice a semester just to talk big picture goals and kind of larger planning schemes. So some students start more frequently and then, kind of back off a little bit as they kind of, pick up some of those skills themselves and find that, the training wheels can kind of come off, so to speak. One thing that we do see quite frequently, though, is that academic coaching and academic advising, while they sound similar, are very different fields. So many of you may have been in Dr. Bowman's session last week talking about academic advising. So think all things class selection, major selection, registration, that is their area of expertise. So we cover all kinds of content in academic coaching, any kind of class or subject matter. So that's kind of the primary difference there between advising and coaching. So additionally, we wanted to note that all kinds of people come to coaching. So it's not just our students who are struggling and wanting to improve those skills. We also see students who are on top of their game and just want to maintain the work that they're already doing. So it's a judgment-free zone, and we welcome students to come see us at any stage of that process they may be in. They may have one part of their organization, locked in and figured out, and they need help with accountability or another aspect of it. So we're absolutely a judgment-free zone, and we welcome people at any point in their academic journey. So often we function as accountability partners. So they tell us, okay, Betty, okay, Becca, this week I'm going to do X, Y, and Z thing. And then next week they come back and tell us, I did it all, it was great. Or they say, oh, maybe it didn't go according to plan. Let's work on it a little bit more, right? We focus on planning out big tasks or helping to focus with online learning, especially this past year. Of course, we'll be seeing far, far, far less of that going into the fall. We're happy to be back on campus for sure. We focus on planning and kind of breaking things down. And one of the biggest skills we love to see students walk away with is knowing how and who to ask for help when they're struggling. So those are some of the things that we like to reiterate with students. And just to give you a little taste of some of the things we may work on during a coaching meeting, these are just a handful of some of the resources that we like to use. So some students enjoy, handouts or physical planners, while others work better in a digital space. So whether it's navigating their tasks or structuring how to study for a big exam, or just planning out their week, each of these resources and more are things that we can use to help them plan short and long term. So Betty's going to lead us into some of, this is kind of the sneak peek for y'all, a little bit about what we may talk about in coaching. So you'll get to see a little bit of that with Betty.
Absolutely. And just to address a couple of questions, one was for academic coaching, are students assigned to us? And they are not. They need to reach out to us if they're interested in meeting. They are assigned an academic advisor, and there is a lot of overlap in our work. They can't go wrong asking any of us questions, because if we're not the right one, we will get them to that point. There's a question about if a student is reluctant to take certain subjects. That is more likely to be the academic advisor who will help them think through what is their degree plan and sort of process those feelings of what they're reluctant, maybe they have some dread around. And Becca and I would also support that kind of thing, encouraging their curiosity, encouraging the kind of skills that would help them feel successful in those courses.
Betty, do you mind if I quickly add something here?
Sure.
So I also working with students with disabilities and different needs. That is often a question that comes up in terms of, I'm not great at math, how, because of my disability. And so I definitely encourage you to kind of, any student in those situations to draft some talking points, to come up with a variety of different some language around, that you can use and share with your academic advisor so they understand why you're reluctant to have that, to take that course, to engage in that particular subject. So, and our office is always happy to kind of help with coming up with that language, helping a student articulate that. So.
Yes, great. And so everything that we will be talking about today, all the services that we provide are included in their tuition and fees. So there are not additional costs for these things, including the peer tutors that are well-trained and provided. So the next section, I'm going to do sort of my top 3 tips for academic success. You do not need to worry about whether your student will hear this, because these are always my talking points. You'll hear them from me again at orientation. They will hear them from me when I visit classes. I try to say it in new ways to try to maintain their interest, but there is no way around the fact that these are the most important pieces of being successful in college. We find that Trinity students, some of them don't yet know how to study, which is understandable, or not able to study at the level that the challenging courses would require them to do. And so all of us have to do some stretching and growing to new challenges, and that's what we're here to help them figure out how to do it. So the first category of success is, I call seize the day. They have to do very intentional work organizing their time. Some of us are better at that than others. I am not naturally gifted in time management, so it's a little bit ironic that this is my work, but it's actually sort of natural because I know what it means to struggle with it and to try to figure out what are the tools to make this better. And so there are some rules of thumb of how much time students should study. You probably heard those. Some of these ideas are here. They have to have a tool, either a planner or a Google Calendar or some combination. And they will need to manage procrastination. We do not say don't procrastinate. We say let's manage it. And so we have lots of tools and tips, articles and things, but we meet them in what we call the judgment-free zone. And many, many others on campus, in addition to Becca and me, will help them figure out how do I apply these things to my course load and my days. So the next category is to be strategic. So Becca mentioned that all of our academic support work is rooted in the science of learning, what is current in cognitive research. And there really is kind of a renaissance of new information that relates to memory that is very specifically applicable to learning in college. So I'm not going to go into a lot of detail here, but I highly recommend the book, Make It Stick. The first author is Brown. And there's a brand new hot off the press book called Learn Like a Pro by Barbara Oakley. She has some other fantastic books, and this is her most recent and awesome one. What these books do is outline the highlights of the research, and they are retrieval practice, which is self-quizzing, is by far more effective than just rereading. Students will often reread or highlight and think they have absorbed it, and it doesn't go deep enough. Spaced learning, we've known about a long time. We know cramming does not result in deep learning, and spaced learning is the opposite of that. So when they learn that this is actually effective, and we give them some tips for how to make it happen, it really does help them. And then interleaving is a really amazing one that is about mixing things up out of context to help increase the retention and the connection to memory. So they're just more efficient and effective. They don't have all the time in the world. So there may be ways to learn that they've been doing, they could still do, but they don't have enough time for inefficient ways of learning. And these are ways to amp up their game. So the last one is probably the most important one, and that is the importance of asking for help. And this is pretty hard for many of them, but asking for help is not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength. And so we work hard to say that in so many ways to encourage them to reach out, to venture beyond their comfort zone and ask for help. So you will see here a long list. It's not even, I'm not sure I even thought of everybody, but there are, there's some faculty mentioned here, but this is almost all staff support offices that are anxious and ready to answer students' questions. So there may be overlap. We kind of think of ourselves as part of a web, so that if they've got a challenge or an issue or a question, we want them to come to someone, and then that someone will help them find their way. There is an expectation that they will reach out and ask. there will be people watching to see, does this student seem to be struggling? Are they missing classes? Is there something else going on? But the onus is still on the student. They will do better if they don't wait for that point, if they can reach out sooner and access these supports. So one of the things that we do, so let's go ahead and move to that so we have time. I mentioned that they will hear this from us a lot. One of the first times they will hear it is during orientation. On the Saturday morning, we have a presentation. And then during the first week of classes, they will have the chance to attend a number of Jumpstart workshops. There will be a whole menu of them offered multiple times so they can go to more than one. And so that will be a great intro. One of the challenges for us is providing this information in a just-in-time kind of way. When are they ready to hear it? So what I have just shared with you about tips, they might get a little bit of it, but until they're applying it, it's a little bit harder for them to connect. So I, as a mom, know I want my kids to go and hear those tools and tips so that you're ready to go. But often they need to kind of have their first pinch, their first maybe not awesome grade, before they realize, oh, they were talking to me. This is actually for me. And so we're here at all stages to help them figure out their way toward thriving.
Awesome.
Thanks.
I am excited to share a little bit with you all about what I consider are sort of the top things for parents and families to understand about students with disabilities, particularly in the college setting. So, Becca, we can move on to the next slide. So this first thing really is about understanding the transition to Trinity. And so one of the fundamental things that many of you, if you have students with disabilities, many of you may understand or know that the systems by which you get registered and get accommodations and assistance are a little bit different between high school and higher education. And so there's all kinds of differences here, different laws and other regulations that kind of manage this. I think the really important thing here is that there is a lot more onus on the student. Just as Betty was sharing, there's a lot more onus to particularly making sure that they are reaching out and taking on that responsibility. And so you'll see a little bit later, versus whether, in high school, often the student has the accommodations kind of done for them and things are already set up in place and teachers and instructors are already kind of automatically know what accommodations are in place. That is not the case here at Trinity. The student is responsible for sending that letter. Now, that's not to say that the student is solely responsible for that. The reason our office exists is to make sure that instructors are providing the accommodations once the student has notified their instructor. And so we're going to get a little bit into that particular process. I think also the other important thing here is that families have a little bit less access to the student information without the student sharing that with them. And so if you've already gone through an initial appointment with our office, or if you have interacted with us, you know that we really will prompt the student to share more about their disability with us. And we welcome parent and family involvement, but we also really believe that it is important for the student to start the process of getting comfortable with articulating about, things about their own disability and how it impacts them. And that's generally what you'll find here in that difference between high school and higher education. So the second piece here is, and I think this is so important, is that you are not alone. So we have about 14% of our student population here that is registered with student accessibility services. And that has increased in the past couple years. About a couple years ago, we were at about 10%. And so we are finding ways to make sure that students get registered with us. I always am a big advocate of breaking down that stigma and sharing that it is not a bad thing to be registered with our office. It is not there shouldn't really be any stigma associated with it, because ultimately for me, I want to see that number increase. I want to see more students get registered with us and access these free resources, the permanent resources that are going to help them thrive on campus, that are going to help them really discover their own strengths and their own potential with their disability in mind. And so I want to always emphasize that you are not alone in this, that this is an important thing to be registered with us. So a little bit about the registration process. We know that we are mostly focused on academic resources, but we cover a variety of different needs. So we have two different applications that we ask students to fill out: our academic and housing / dining related. We do ask that you provide supporting documentation. We will provide a variety of different links in the chat to share some information about what all of this means and how you can access some of these important things to get registered. Then the student schedules an appointment, and in that appointment, it's all about individual attention. So we're going to ask the student about their disability. We're going to ask about their needs. We're going to share resources and ultimately decide those accommodations. Then each semester, accommodation letters are going to be requested by the student and sent. One of the most important things here is that the student meet with their instructor or another appropriate staff member or instructional staff to really discuss what those accommodations are going to look like in the class, because everything is handled on an individual basis. Except for a couple different accommodations, pretty much everything should be discussed with that instructor. So a little bit more about this. So, with registration, we're going to look at that documentation, and we're going to look at a variety of different things: the credentials of the evaluator. The really great thing is that we actually have a provider verification form on our website that gives you a really great form that you can give to your doctor, to the medical provider, to the mental health provider, that they can fill out right there, and it asks the specific questions that we need. So, and the important thing here is that the documentation does not need to be extensive in nature. So we're going to review it, and if we feel like it generally meets our needs, we're going to be okay with that documentation. Also, I encourage anyone that does not have the documentation or is worried about it to not initially worry about documentation. The most important thing is that you're getting connected with us, you're applying, and we're meeting to discuss it. We always have options. We always have ways of working through things, advising on documentation and that sort of thing. So I never want documentation to be a barrier for students that need accommodations, an initial barrier for that. So the really great thing is when we talk with a student, not only are we going to focus on their disability, we're going to focus on strengths and interests and goals and other things that they're really excited about. And we want to get to know the student. And so we're going to encourage you to share some of that with us. And the really great thing is that we are a partner for you throughout your time at Trinity. So using we have a really great tool called SAS Link that is our central hub for all students, and pretty much almost everything you would need to do through our office. Everything is right there. Students get access to that. It's one link that they can use for everything, including requesting what we call your faculty notification letters, the accommodation letters that are sent to instructors each semester. We also are open for check-ins, reviewing accommodations, changes. We have processes for students that find their instructors aren't providing the accommodations. If there are issues with with getting the accommodations and whatnot, that is something that we will work with students on. And so we are always there to help the student however they need it. So types of accommodations, just a quick overview. We have so many different options here, from some standard exam and testing accommodations, things like extended time, breaks during exams, testing in a reduced distraction environment like the accommodated testing center. Additionally, we also look at classroom access. And so from note-taking assistance to getting notes or slides from an instructor that they provided, to making sure that the class is actually accessible, providing cart services or other accessible means that the student can participate in class. We work individually with the students on their classroom needs. I'm also really excited to share that we really focus in on assistive technology. We believe that technology is the future of accommodations, and that technology allows a student to open up their opportunity for learning and for engaging in the classroom with their disability-related needs. And so we offer so many different tools, from some really cool note-taking programs called Glean, and our LiveScribe note-taking pens, to all kinds of different tools there to help the student. We definitely want to shout those out. So, and then of course, not necessarily academic, but we do have a couple other options. So as always, we will work with students on their particular housing assignment. If there's anything in their housing assignment that they need related to a disability need of some kind, we work with students on that particular scenarios, things like single room and whatnot. We also have dining modifications, so we will work with dining services to get those, get students connected with our chef, who then provides we provide a special kind of layout of, here's your options for dining on campus, and here's how you can access some of those. And then also, we are the central office for managing animals on campus. And so from emotional support animals, they go directly through our accommodation process, to students that need to bring on a service animal on campus. And maybe if they're living in the residence hall, they would need to submit vaccination records and things of that nature. All of that goes through our office. So a couple nuances of the accommodations process. The really great thing is that students do not need to reapply each semester. It's simply all about re-requesting those accommodation letters, because it goes to a different instructor each semester. In some cases, like our housing accommodations, they essentially stay in place for the full 3 years. There may be some cases where we ask for student confirmation again each year, but in general, students do not need to reapply. They do not need to resubmit documentation of any kind to get those same accommodations they've already been approved for. Everything is, I mentioned everything is on a semester by semester basis. And the really important thing here is that there are some accommodations that students might have gotten in high school that we don't consider or don't look at in terms of whether they are reasonable or not at the college level. So we use this thing called the reasonable standard, which is essentially, can a student continue to meet all of the essential requirements in their course with or without the accommodations? And so we balance the student's needs with that reasonable standard. And so there are some things that students may have gotten accustomed to that they that may not be reasonable within our realm. But we always talk through with the student and figure out a solution in that case. So, and finally, my most favorite options. Listen, I always say that we do so much more than just accommodations. If we just did accommodations, we wouldn't be doing our job. So we'd love to go beyond accommodations. I mentioned a little bit about assistive technology. Again, we have a great brochure that we're going to share with you digitally that gives you a breakdown of all of the different options we have there. I'm also really excited. I mentioned our learning specialist a little earlier, and our learning specialist has taken up some really significant programs like our Roots program and our first year success skills course. So we know that students really need that one-on-one support, and many students come in with a variety of different needs that are different than their peers. And so I love that we offer things like the Roots program and the first year success skills course to really meet the students where they are at. So, we find that if a student is in dire need of a regular meeting, a regular check-in that is a little bit more in depth and dives into specific behaviors that the student might be not utilizing or not utilizing, that Roots program is a really great opportunity. And with the success skills course, it's going to offer students a variety of ways to connect with peers, discuss their disability related needs, and how that connects with success in their first year of the course. So also, I'm really excited that our wonderful accessibility specialist, Jessica Reyes, coordinates our peer mentor program. And so we have a variety of ways for especially incoming students to provide or to connect with a peer mentor on campus. And we really believe that that connection helps a student navigate those informal conversations that they may have, the conversations they may have with their faculty, the opportunities on campus, and which majors might be a little bit more connected with their disability related needs, how they can kind of navigate certain situations that are disability related. So that's a really important thing that we really like to shout out. So, and then finally, we have, I wanted to shout out our transition days. Many of you may have been able to attend one of those transition days, but we went through 2 of them, and now we have our upcoming one at the end of July that is going to be in person. And so we have our day 1 that's going to be July 30th. That's all about the academic piece of things. And then that following day, the Saturday, the 31st, is going to be all about resources on campus and getting support, not only here on campus, but within the community. So we're going to share the link there in the chat to sign up for that if you would like to come to that in person and feel like that would be beneficial for your student with a disability. So
there's a few questions in the Q&A. One
Absolutely.
about, can they move up their appointment from the 30th? Is it possible to meet sooner?
It is, absolutely. We are happy to connect with the student, and we will do appointments over the summer. So if they want to reach out to the SAS inbox, or you probably received something from your actual accessibility specialist here, the person that's managing your application. And so if you received it from them, reach back out to them and just ask if it's possible to move that time up so that you can meet again or meet earlier with us.
So there's also a question about Glean. If a student is not registered with SAS, do they have access to it, or what do you recommend for note taking?
Right now, that is not the case. So a student will need to be registered with us right now to get access, or at least be connected with us. So we are implementing it office-wide for those students who have a note-taking accommodation. But it is available on an individual basis. It's a really great tool. And I would definitely encourage you to reach out to us if you had questions on getting access to that, or connecting with us about that resource. So
another good question has to do with math and language placement tests. Are there accommodations for those?
Yes. So right now, basically it is a similar process that you would have for getting registered with us in general. So we do ask, because it's an accommodation that's being provided by Trinity, that you follow our general accommodation process. And so I realize I did not upload all of the links that I have here. So we're going to get those links uploaded into the chat. And what you'll be able to do is you'll be able to submit an application. We do ask that you submit some form of documentation if possible. And once that is submitted, you would meet the student, and parents and family are more than welcome to attend that as well. But that you all would meet with us. We would discuss the accommodations. What happens after that is there are coordinators for each of those exams, and we will let the coordinators know about that particular accommodation.
So a couple of more follow-up questions about how they make appointments. Do they reach out? Do you all reach out? And then the timing of the July 30th and then the sooner things. Would it be online if they met sooner?
It will be online. It'll be through Zoom usually. What we'll do there is basically, if you reach out to the SAS inbox, someone will reach back out. We'll send a link to set up the time that you would meet with us, and then we would find a time that would work for both that individual specialist and you, and then you will get a Zoom invite to the appointment.
Awesome. There's a question about tutoring services. They are all over the map at all days of the week, depending on the tutoring. For the Writing Center and the Quantitative Reasoning and Skills Center, they have Sunday hours. Saturday hours don't tend to be very popular, so we don't provide that. Sunday is a really big day, and then there are hours Monday through Thursday and some on Friday as well. Each of the peer tutors that is associated with a class hired by the departments, they will provide their schedules so that students can plan around when those tutors are available.
Forgive me, I am now just getting the links into the chat.
So we will be providing the slideshow, and we will also include links to be able to download the documents that Becca shared with you, some of the tools that we use. We will provide links so that you can download PDFs of those things.
Yes, so as a follow-up to Betty's comment there, you all will receive an email by the end of the week once this presentation is live on the YouTube playlist, and it will include links to those resources that she is mentioning, and a reminder about some of these documents that Spencer has provided in the chat as well. We'll also go in the comprehensive email in case you're not in a place to save those URLs. And there's questions still coming in, which is great because we still have about 9 minutes. So if questions did not get answered, we encourage you to begin typing those at the bottom of your screen.
So Becca may be able to answer the locked drawer question. Is there a locked drawer in each of the res hall rooms?
So there was when I was a student. Time has passed since then. I won't share how much, but that would be a good question. You should be able to look on the website. There should be a page for each of the residence halls. So once your student is assigned their room, they should be able to look and see, you know, what are the dimensions of the room like? Do I have a walk-in closet or a wall closet? You know, all the things they might want to know about. And that should be included as part of that as well. Just anecdotally, Trinity tends to be a very safe campus. The most common thing we hear about is bikes that are not secured properly walking away. So for the most part, you know, you can leave things around most places on campus and they're going to be there when you come back. So for the most part, that is a non-issue.
And one more resource for the locked drawer answer would be just to contact Residential Life directly.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I see there's a question here about, is SAS only for students with disabilities or for those students that had accommodations in high school or for all students? So SAS is open to all students. Now, there's, particular kind of laws in place that guide our services more towards students that would get registered with our office. So typically it's only going to be students with disabilities or students with mental health, chronic health needs, even students with broken arms and legs, will get temporary accommodations through our office. We have a variety of different sort of conditions and medical concerns and whatnot that we cover. And so I find a lot of students would qualify for our accommodations, but it's not in the same manner that like academic support services would be, where a student could generally just show up and access the resources. There is a process to get registered and to access those accommodations. So I will say we do have some options for students that may not necessarily be ready to get registered with our office. And so we often encourage those students to connect with Myron, our learning specialist, and he will work with the student even if they're not registered with our office. And typically those are going to be situations where we will work up to the student getting registered with our office. So.
I'll answer this latest question in the chat about tutors. Each of the tutors is carefully selected. There's a lot of competition for tutoring jobs, and so they are selected because of their experiences already in the class and with the faculty member. So it's based on how they have performed in that class, but also how do they perform as an interactive tutor. And then the training they provide goes over those relational things, boundary things, understanding various identities. It's about a 10 module training process. So it's actually a really wonderful gift to the tutors to get the kind of training they're getting, because it serves them well also in the long run. But also, in addition to peer tutors, office hours are such a common thing at Trinity, and it's a little bit difficult for students at first to understand, what does this mean? It's really student hours that the faculty have in their office so that students can come and ask questions. And the most successful students go to a lot of office hours. It is not a time to feel bad about where you are. It's about time to engage, ask questions, hear what other people are asking, and really take advantage of the chance to interact with faculty.
That's great advice, Betty, and that's how the students get to know their professors, right? Which is one of the main reasons for selecting Trinity University, is for that one-on-one relationship.
So there's also a question about note-taking services. In general, I don't recommend it unless it's through SAS as an accommodation for a disability. Taking notes is a big part of the learning process of paraphrasing, rephrasing, making connections. But the question about recording is something that they can work on with each individual professor to find out if that's possible. But what we really recommend for deep learning is that they develop those skills for participating in class, figuring out how to write down the main ideas, processing their notes later. And so I'm not a big fan of someone else providing their notes, because that misses out on the writing down themselves to process the information.
And Betty, would a student be able to come to you to learn about note-taking, better note-taking techniques?
Absolutely. So Becca and I would love to, specific to each class, talk about what is the class like? What do you get before the class? What time are you spending with that material, so that when you're in the class and hearing the lecture, you're making connections to those things? And then later, are you comparing what were the notes that you might have written down when you read, and what were the notes you took in class? where are those themes? That must be important if it was in both of those places. And they brought it up another time. Ding, that's important information. So it's definitely a skill to start to get what's the most important stuff, because there is a lot of information and it's useful. But what we want them to do is to build the skill of embracing the challenge, of keeping their curiosity intact, even when it feels challenging, because that's why they will be here. And that's what we are looking forward to watching them navigate.
Betty, I will quickly share that to follow up with that, the point about note-taking, Student Accessibility Services does frequently work with faculty on getting recordings of lectures or working with students on approving them for a audio recording of those lectures. So that is an accommodation that we have worked with students in the past as well. So.
Wonderful. Well, it looks like we don't have any more questions to answer, and we are at the end of our 1 hour time. So we really appreciate our panelists. Of course, you don't have a room full of people to clap for you, but we appreciate you, and parents and families, we appreciate you taking time out of your evenings or afternoons to join us and to listen. We have shared our contact information here, Elisa, myself, and Esther's information. Again, you'll be receiving an email from us by the end of the week with a link to the YouTube playlist where these presentations live. It will also include links to our resources that were shared this evening as well. And we're happy to help make connections with our colleagues here if you forget any information that you heard this evening as well. So we appreciate you, and we look forward to seeing so many of you on campus in the fall, and hope you'll continue to join us for the remainder of our summer parent series. So Betty, Becca, Spencer, thank you. And that is all.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Have a great evening.